Lauren O'Loughlin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Bit of an extra effort today.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell the people where we are?
We are in the Grayson in Stephen's Green, or is it beside Stephen's Green?
Beside Stephen's Green.
Yeah.
This is another special cinematic episode. Thanks to and courtesy of Mr. James Henton, because we recorded a nice episode. I won't say the guest. I don't know has he announced the guest yet, but we had a lovely episode this morning with James. So myself and yourself have taken advantage of this beautiful venue to do another episode. Today, we are going to have a little bit more structure than we usually start with, because we usually start with one idea and go mad on the idea. But we're going to have a series of principles and lessons. This, I know in a lot of the podcasts we almost apologize for talking about business a lot, because that's our experience. We use those lessons and apply them to personal development and things like that, and evolution and growth. But in this episode, we are going to focus specifically on some business lessons that we've learned that we do apply elsewhere, but have been, for me, things that have come up over and over and over again. And when something comes up over and over again for me, I usually start to take a little bit of notice. It takes a long time for it to go in, but once I start to recognize it coming up a lot, I go, okay, maybe that's something that is going to keep coming up, so it's probably something I should pay attention to. And I would probably call these principles to my growth, my business growth, things I am currently now aware of and learning and continuing to learn. And you have some as well. You are a man who has built one successful business and are now on another business journey. And I'd imagine, well, I know because we spoke about this, that there are principles that you've seen in both of those journeys that also translate across. And then also the third element to this is we both work with other business owners. And some of these principles that I've recognized are also things that I'd recognize in these people. And you're similar as well in terms of the business owners.
And I obviously made a professional decision, and a big reason, or how I was able to make that decision, was actually me falling back on my experience of business. Because obviously changing career or starting a new business, there's a huge level of uncertainty.
Yes.
But that was 10 years of experience of building a business. Yeah. So I have leaned into my business experience to make the decision that I made.
100%. Would you like to start or will I start?
You start.
I think we're going to do 6. Just so people know, and we'll go back and forth, we'll alternate. My first one, which is the one that jumped to my mind straight away when I was thinking about this particular episode, is something, and again, just for clarity for people, lessons that I am currently still learning, but they're now things that I am very aware of, whereas there's probably loads of other lessons I need to learn that I just have no awareness around. So that's what these things are specifically. And they're also not things that I'm not sitting on top of a mountain of, I've done this thing and now I want to tell you about this thing. It's these are the things that are coming up constantly for me, and it just repeats so much, especially in business for me. Lead with honesty and set expectations early. So what do I mean by this? We recently did an episode for your podcast. We talked about this idea of honesty, and my interpretation of like extreme honesty is not that it's important to be honest, which I do think it is, but it's that it holds you, if you make a commitment to yourself to be honest, it holds you to a higher standard to yourself. Because if you're not going to lie, you've less excuses, you've less ways to get out of uncomfortable situations. That was the biggest one I found. If there were ever any lies, and I'm like, I wouldn't call myself a liar, but most of us, if we actually think about it, do tell little white lies here and there to ease discomfort, either for us or for somebody else. So in a business context, not that I was lying to clients, absolutely wasn't, but I found situations, I gave an example on your show of, say I had missed a deadline delivering a project for a client. It was easier for me to say something happened. There was a technical issue. I lost the file or something like, well, not even I lost the file was corrupted or something technical went wrong, knowing that they'd have no way to prove or disprove that. So the lie technically would be believed, but it would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. I wouldn't have to admit to them I missed the deadline. So when I started to notice that I was doing that a little bit, I wasn't actually doing it that much, but when I there was a couple of times I did it and I was like, oh, that doesn't sit right with me really. I started to see other little areas in business where this could be a problem if you didn't lead with honesty and make a conscious effort to be honest. Because when you have a relationship with somebody you don't really know in a business context, and the premise of the whole relationship is I'm going to provide a service and you're going to give me money for that service, there's loads of different incentives there. So there's loads of different drivers that aren't necessarily aligned with your principles. They're more aligned with your business goals. And that's where I can see things getting a little bit shady. And you hear all the time about like dodgy dealings in business and stuff like this. I can see where that comes from. But I think I'm playing with this idea of when I initially meet somebody, we'll talk about the honesty piece first, then the expectations. Making a conscious decision and having an intention to be extremely honest about all elements of what I do, how I do it, what my methodologies are, how much I can help the person, and realistically what I can do, when I can do it, and how I can do it, how fast I can turn it around, realistically what our relationship is going to look like from my perspective and what I envision for that person. If I'm really honest about that, as opposed to being uncomfortable about it from the start, it makes it easier for me to hold myself to those standards going forward, because I've set that out at the start. And then that links in with the expectations piece. I was always somebody who under-promised and then tried to over-deliver on the under-promising, because I think to a certain level I was afraid of being held accountable to an expectation that I set out at the start, so I wouldn't even give that expectation. Whereas now what I'm finding is it's actually a much easier situation to set out an expectation around what you can deliver, number one, which we spoke about there, but number two, how this is going to play out, what realistic turnaround times are for projects or products or whatever it is that you do. Setting that out really, really early is a great way to establish a strong relationship with somebody, I found, because I've done it the other way where I don't really set a lot of expectations at the start and I just kind of, yeah, we do this and we'll see how it goes, whatever. But it ends up creating situations for me where I could be dishonest and lie about something because it's uncomfortable or uncomfortable with the situation, or you build a resentment towards a client maybe because you haven't laid out your expectations. And for me, that's something that just kept coming up in different areas, not just I'll meet a client and I have to do this, but I found a really good way to deal with it is to go in with that intention. First time I meet a client, I'm going to lead with honesty. This is what I can do. This is who I am. This is what I do. And then set my expectations out really, really early and manage their expectations for what the achievement can be. So that was the first one for me. What about you? How does that show for you?
Yeah, well, there's so much there that you can go into, because like truth, I think, and particularly in business, because there's no better barometer than business in terms of success if you're telling the truth or not, because you can't succeed really long term by lying, I think. And even as you said there as well, there's an element then of even if you do succeed doing this, well, you're kind of lying to yourself. And therefore, is that fulfilling? Is that success? It's kind of a weird one. But you said there about the truth with the client initially, because this is what I've definitely leaned into more. I help clients, say, develop and create a new way of living. And over the years, I would have just taken on clients, whether I deemed them ready or right to actually make the change. Whereas now I go, you're not ready to change, because it looks bad on me. No matter what I do to a client who's not ready to change, I can't help them. They're not in a state of change. They're not ready to actually implement the stuff that I can give them. So it's actually incumbent on me to be like, no, I can't work with you. So if I lean more into truth, actually, the results I get, the work I do, everything is better. But you are right, it's more difficult because there's an expectation, there's a standard that's on me, but that's the growth. I think we've mentioned this loads of times about Peterson and truth. He always talks about truth, and he says that's the adventure of life. So it's not that truth is any easier. It's not that truth's even going to give you success, but there is like an honesty, an adventure, a reality, a realism to this thing. And that is what I found in business is certainly a better opportunity for success and definitely more fulfilling. But then I'd even question to you, because I think I believe this basically what you were saying there. Is this something that you kind of have to experience? Like, do you have to live it to be like, oh, actually, I want to be better here, or I need to lean more into this? Because I think me personally, I had to do what I did to find out, no, I need to lean a bit more into truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think it's back to, I know it's always comes back to this, but if you don't have awareness about it, whether you experience it or not, I don't think is the point. If you are not aware or have some level of awareness around it, you can, there's a lot of people that you meet who lie their way through a lot of different things, and you can sense it off them when you know it's not honesty they're leading with and stuff like that. But either there's not an awareness around it, or it doesn't grate. There's no friction there for them. They're able to just do it. Now, maybe at some point, like you said, it will catch up with them, and maybe it won't. I don't know. But I think, do you need to experience it? Probably. But you also need to have awareness for it to actually impact you. I think it's one of those things. This is why I think it maps over nicely into other things in life. It's one of those situations where it's short-term discomfort for long-term, not comfort necessarily, but long-term gain, i.e., sometimes it can be a little bit uncomfortable at the start, setting out expectations or being honest with a client at the start, because it feels a bit vulnerable or it feels a bit strange to be doing that right at the start, where you're supposed to be like selling the sun and the moon and the stars. And some of the messaging you get, like, just tell them whatever they want to hear and fake it till you make it and figure it out afterwards. And like, that stuff can work in certain contexts. But I think that initial discomfort, that initial vulnerability and openness leads to long-term gain in my experience, because you build deeper relationships, and those expectations that you've now set and the honesty and the picture you've now painted, you don't have to try and get away from something in the future that you've created in the short term, because it will be easier at the start to say, yeah, whatever you need, whatever you want, we can do it, yeah, whatever. And then, as I said before, resent it or be in an uncomfortable situation where you have to lie about it 6 months down the road. So that would be short-term comfort, i.e. the lie for long-term discomfort, ultimately. Like
yeah, but as you were saying there, because I think this is maybe the necessary component of being an entrepreneur, you said fake it till you make it, because we all kind of have to do that initially. Because when we are an entrepreneur building a new service or a new product, we haven't done it before.
Yeah.
So these elements of like maybe telling white lies or like false truths is probably necessary.
It's a grey area, isn't it?
It is. But I think it's necessary. But then you said building awareness around it, because once you have the skill and the capacity, which you maybe don't have from day one, then you're knowingly lying, if that kind of makes sense. Because you're not necessarily lying at the very start going like, I can't help you or I'm not doing this thing. Like you said, it becomes a bit more insidious then, like you said, going like, oh, I'm going to say this thing I know is not true. Right? At the time when you're creating this thing or doing this thing, you kind of have to lie, but with the belief that you are going to reveal the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's an interesting one now, because we're almost calling ourselves out here on this first point. I agree with what you're saying. I think, is the language around it a bit fluffy?
Yeah, maybe it is.
I think, if you genuinely believe you can help somebody, let's say me, right? Well, let's use a practical example. If someone approaches me and they ask me to provide a certain level of production that I haven't done before, but I know I can do it. I think the honesty part there is, look, and I've actually done this before. Look, I haven't done anything at this scale before, or I haven't done anything at this type of location before. However, this is what I have done, and I believe I can map that over. If you're happy with that, we can move forward with this. I think the lie there would be, no problem, I've done it before. So
have you never done that? As in like, no problem.
No, I actually haven't.
I don't mean that you have to say, sorry, that I've done it before, but that I will do this for you without having to say, I've done this.
I think I've usually qualified it. But I don't think that was because I was going to be really honest. I think I was just uncomfortable around the whole thing. I don't want to be found out here. So, and I've said that multiple times. I haven't actually done it at this level before, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And if you want verification or proof, I don't have it. But you can talk to my other clients and we can have a discussion about it. We can do a trial or whatever, and we can do whatever we need to get done. But the lie would be, I've done it before. Just give me your money.
And would this be a thing then ultimately, why you've brought this point up initially, is that for me, I don't want to be successful living this way almost, because I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel in alignment with who I want to be.
I suppose that's what the ultimate, again, it's back to that awareness piece. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
If it's just for the money,
lie,
go for it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't bother you that much, go for it. Lie your way to wherever you need to be. But I don't know if I haven't felt comfortable with any of those, like those little white lies. The ones I have told are something happened. Now, not recently, so if anyone's listening now,
but even people don't understand, who don't know what you do. They just think it's a podcast, when in reality, like the connection with your clients, what you're doing. So that really matters to you. That really matters to
the relationship I have with a person really matters. Now, there's two elements that I want. We won't get sidetracked by this, but one is it's my own emotional piece about you want people to like you and all that kind of stuff. So outside of that, the relationship I build with a client is really important, because I'm developing a certain level of trust. I want to help them explore the messaging and the connection and the communication, their own business growth. I want to help them connect with other people, and I can do that much better if I have a good relationship with the person. I understand them, i.e. you're a client of mine, or e.g. you're a client of mine, and we do a lot of that. Really trying to understand what you're trying to do and who you're trying to connect with. And for me to do that with you, we have to have a connection. So if that's based off lies or resentment and stuff,
it's not a real connection.
Yeah, it's not a real connection. I'll lose interest and I won't be able to give as much.
You'll do worse work.
I'll do way worse work. Yeah, way worse work. But it depends on the type of business you're running. If you're selling shoes, you don't care about this kind of stuff, that's a different type of conversation. I don't have information on that, but I can imagine the same scenario. You don't want to lie to your customers. You don't want to lie to yourself. You want to be satisfied going to work. If your motivation purely is money, which I don't think it is for most people. I think there's no problem going after money, but I don't think that's the pure motive. Money is to facilitate other things. And I know for myself and yourself and a lot of people we talk to, we want that type of lifestyle. We want to feel good about what we do. We want to have an impact. We want to offer value to people deeper than the physical thing we do. So I think for us, it would great in the long term. I think we would look back. And even if we didn't, because I had this conversation with you really early in our relationship, one of us would call the other one out on it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're after taking this big deal and you're a wanker because you don't like this fucking stuff. But the money's good, man. I think
you know what's bringing up for me? Because it's really funny. We used to have the one-off programs, and we literally made millions off. We sold thousands all over the world. Yeah. We used to have this ticker that when you click on the website, it says you got 24 hours to get this rate. But like that doesn't sit well with me right now.
That is technically a lie.
It is a lie.
Yeah.
And it's a marketing tool that I did and used, and it worked. But right now, like me as a man, I wouldn't do that now. I did it, and that's a white lie that I was comfortable at one day, but eventually like, no, I'm not really comfortable doing this. But again, it works in the sense of the money, but I am being disingenuous to myself and therefore other people.
You found another lie and I'd be interested in people's perspective on this, because this is a lie, but this is a business strategy as well. And it's changed organically recently. I didn't consciously change this. I used to say to people, I only have one space left. And you used to do this. I only have one space left in my program this month. Only one. And that wasn't true. I had loads of space.
But
in fact, I didn't have enough clients. I need more clients.
Is that fair? Because,
That's a lie.
it's a lie. But also,
that's why I don't think there's a black and white answer to this. Like,
okay.
is it always honesty? And this is the same kind of question as like, if your missus asks you, does she look good in this dress?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you tell her?
Yeah,
Do you tell her the truth and hurt her feelings?
well, that's a little bit easier to say. Yeah, you look great, babe.
That was great. That was great. But in that context, right, that was one thing I did. And the way I say that's organically changed. Now, genuinely, I cannot take more than 2 people a month because there's so much. The product is so big now.
Yeah.
There's so much investment from me and the team at the
then
start.
maybe that's why it's easier as you get quote unquote more success to start to lean.
But it was a lie.
Yeah, but to lean more into truth is what I'm saying. As you begin to develop
Yeah.
as a business, as an entrepreneur, and you have more success, it's easier to look at this honesty.
Yeah.
Maybe.
This one has confused me.
That's good though.
That's the first one. We're only out the fucking gate here and we're confusing ourselves. Anyway, I would be interested in other people's perspective on like what is a lie, what is wrong, what is right.
Because does this then start to impact then maybe your personal life? Would that be an issue?
I don't know how it doesn't. And I think this is a thing that a lot of these people, like you mentioned Peterson, but a lot of people are talking about lying. I think ultimately the fear is this becomes a part of who you are.
Yeah.
That doesn't sit well with you. And you like the thing is you'll always know. And like I always say to the lads, like I mightn't see you not go to the cone, but you'll know. No one gives a fuck when they say that. Like, but on some level you've let yourself down. And on some level that has to grate, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And I have found some of that stuff coming up sometimes where I'm just not happy with myself because of my own standards. I'm like, where is that coming from? And it's just these little bits that sometimes come up like, oh, I told that lie about I only have one place left. That's not a big thing. I didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. It was for the business and stuff. But like on some level, does that not sit right? I don't know what the answer is. But anyway, I like this principle, lead with honesty. Wherever you can, lead with honesty and set expectations early. It seems to help me anyway avoid any of that long-term negativity with a client and the resentment and all that kind of stuff. And it's way more aligned. I feel more comfortable now that I've done it a lot, leading with that honesty early days. And now I'm getting, like any practice, I'm getting better at it. And the more I get better at it, the more comfortable I am with it. So yeah, so it's one that keeps like this. It just keeps coming up, and there's new lessons. You pointed out something I hadn't thought about. That's another thing to look at.
Well, again, the depth of that, you know what I mean? It just goes everywhere in your life.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I would call that like a core principle around business now, because most things I do is a decision. So I have a decision to be honest or dishonest or set an expectation early in this decision, and with myself, with clients, with other people. So yeah, I think that's my number one anyway. Jeez, we nearly didn't even get past fucking number one there. Jesus. Okay, number one. Anything else to say on that? You happy with that?
No, I'm happy with that.
So if I was to, and this is not about giving advice, but if I was to wrap that one up, lead with honesty, set expectations early. If it's uncomfortable for you, work through the initial discomfort and figure out why it's uncomfortable. Why does it not sit right with you? And then figure out if it's within your value set or your set of principles to maybe implement something like setting out early to have an intention around honesty and expectation. That's what I would say would be my take home for principle number one.
I love it. Principle number two, then I'll go, is for me, and I've experienced it over the last 10 years as an entrepreneur, and I actually work with clients now on this who are very successful people. But there's nowhere to be, there's no North Star, and there's no real goal that brings the peace or the contentment or the fucking thing that I'm looking for. So I don't know if I said it on the podcast before, but like when I started moving to 101, I had these visions of, we start with 30 members, and I had these visions of going online, having thousands of clients, and like it came to fruition. And if you had told me that has come to fruition, I'd be like, grand, tick off life. You've made it. Like you're there. You've done what you said you would do. You're happy. You're peaceful. There's nothing else more to accomplish. And then when you get there, you go, well, I'm still here. And there's still things to do. And there's still tomorrow. And there's still my fears and insecurities and emotions and life to live. And I've just achieved so many quote unquote goals that I said would make me happier. That's the thing that's going to give me the thing. And you realize, oh, fuck. There's genuinely nothing extra. And I'm saying this from someone like, I haven't earned all the money. I'm not like this uber successful person, but I've achieved like so many goals. I'm like, that's what I'm missing in my life. And then you get them and you're like, what am I talking about? Like, and then I work with clients now currently who are uber successful, but then they lack a connection with themselves. Maybe they're not there or present with their kids, and they have done all the things. And I'm getting this reinforcement from working with these people going like, it's not these external goals, it's not these things that we are all chasing. And I still chase, but maybe now I'm chasing with a different viewpoint. I'm not chasing it externally. I'm looking to achieve things that really light me up, things that really I value, things that are allowing me to express myself. But again, as I'm just thinking this now, very similar to the truth thing, maybe sometimes we have to experience this to kind of get it. Because we've always heard this, and you've said this to me loads of times. How many times have you been told money is not the answer and the thing is not the answer? Yeah. And people are like, well, that's grand for you to say because you've got this and that. But then if we are told this, maybe there's an element of truth. And I still have ambition. I still want to achieve goals. But I do know deep down, that goal is not going to give me whatever emotional thing or connection thing that I'm missing. And I got to be careful, because if I keep fucking chasing that thing, I won't be happy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's mad. I was only thinking as you're speaking there, I have heard that message packaged in a lot of different ways. However, my two thoughts on it are, every time you say it to me, it's the only time I ever have an emotional reaction to it. When you say it to me, you say you've nowhere to be. When you say it specifically like that, because all of the other ways I hear that message, not that it's everywhere, but whenever else I hear that message in like the personal growth or business world or whatever it might be, it's always packaged as, it's not the money, it's not the this, it's not the that, it's the now, it's the gratitude, it's the presence and all that. But you always say to me, you've nowhere to be. And if I ever get a bit panicky or overwhelmed, you're like, Rex, there's nowhere you have to actually be. Like, oh, you thought you'd be here by here and you thought you'd be there by there, but you don't actually have to be anywhere. You just have to be right now. And it's the only time I have an emotional connection to it. You said it there and I was like, oh, fuck yeah. It made me feel a little bit like calmer. And every other message that you hear is you do have somewhere to be. You need to be this type of person. You need to be at work on time. You need to get
You're
out of
not good
bed.
enough, dickhead.
You're not good enough. You need to do all these things. You need to do this. And I think there is you touched on it there. There is a nice balance for me anyway, as a man, in the middle of, I don't want to lose any of my ambition or my edge.
But sorry, that is important, right? Because I still have ambition. You know me.
And
I still
you have
strive.
massive ambition.
Yeah, and want to do things.
Yeah.
But I think previously I was doing that from a place of, I'm not good enough or I'm not happy. Whereas now I'm not.
Black.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I still, again, want things. It's not that I don't want things, but I was chasing these things to fulfill me or to give me something. I'm not necessarily chasing things now. I'm certainly much more aware that I know this thing is not going to give me what I potentially missing.
It's both, isn't it? It's both. You can have both things, or you can work on both things, or look at both things at the same time. You can want to grow and develop and build and provide and experience and explore and all that kind of stuff, and earn money or drive cars, whatever it is that you're into. You can want that and also want to be really present right now and enjoy what you have right now, because those things, they're not mutually exclusive.
Well, I've had the opposite. I've had the things and not been here.
Yeah, and that's what ends up for a lot of us. You get the thing, you achieve the goal.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't it.
No,
because we're trying to fill a fucking hole.
I'm so fucking wired. I'm looking for the next thing. I'm not even here with the kids or with my.
You don't even enjoy
the
thing you've achieved.
Yeah.
Let alone feel like it's not the thing. You don't even enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that sweet spot that we crave and we see, do other people have this, is I am here and present and enjoying this experience right now with you and having this conversation. And I'm also ambitious and I want to grow and I want to drive. And when I get there, I'm going to enjoy that too. And I'm going to enjoy it even more.
But even that now, so I still get lost at the moment. I'm not always fucking being present.
I'm almost never present.
Isn't this a balance? I don't know if Simon Sinek said, like, the idea of the infinite game. So if we were to look at
Simon Sinek,
is it? Yeah. So looking at the lens of life and our goals as the infinite game. So it's brilliant. So it's like, oh, there's nowhere to be.
Yeah.
We can still achieve, but not going, this is the thing that's going to give me this finite thing that I'm missing.
Yes.
And then we talked about loads of times on the podcast, play, curiosity, like an energy, a vitality, bringing that to life. As Alan Watts would say, we're playing life. We're playing the instrument, the music, not to finish the fucking thing, just because it's actually really enjoying.
Yeah, man, these visuals are also simple, but they have a really big effect on me for some reason right now.
Well, you know what? I think you're living this more and more. Like the last 2 or 3 months with you, there's been a shift, and you are getting a little bit more present. That is disgraceful.
Isn't that disgraceful?
We've got to keep this in.
We have to keep it in.
Oh my God. The podcasting guru.
That's actually Conor O'Keefe, right? So Conor, sorry, I'm not answering your phone call because we're on a podcast right now.
The podcasting guru has his phone on, like, would you not even put that on silent? Like,
I had it on silent.
You couldn't have.
I did have it on silent.
So how's it ringing?
Because I put it back on loud again. Actually, you know I put it on loud? Because I thought you would arrive and be standing at the front door. And I genuinely wouldn't be able to get in.
Fault.
Little Brian wouldn't be able to get in. Anyway, sorry, Conor, I'll call you back. Ian, sorry about that. What was the question there?
Yeah, infinite game and bring. I did Alan Watts. You're saying you felt it, and you've had a shift.
That's a really powerful visual for me because I play a little bit of guitar. Just.
Do you? I didn't know that.
There's a guitar in the studio. There's 2 guitars in the wall of my house.
I didn't know you play guitar.
Did you not?
No way. Can you play something for me? Are you good? Like,
I don't have a guitar here. But
no, but that right now.
Ian just happens to have a guitar.
But are you good?
I enjoy it. See, this is the thing, right? Are you good? Will you
but you can actually play a note.
I can play. Yeah, I can play and I
way.
can sing a little bit. But I really enjoy it. And sometimes I play for the kids. They don't enjoy it. They don't like listening to it. Jill used to like it. Now doesn't like it anymore. But I just enjoy playing. I often play when nobody's there. So it's not the performance piece that I like. I actually don't like that. I played at Jill's sister's wedding. There's 150 people there. And her dad is such a nice man. And he kept asking me when I got up, because this band wasn't really going down well with the group when I got up and I played 3 songs. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I ever did. It was really good afterwards, but it's not the performance for me, really. But I enjoy music. But I'm just playing. There's no real outcome there. I'm not practicing to get better. Now, I also want to get better. I want to play other songs. And there is a part of me I like to play for like my family. I'd like to like give them some music and some songs. That'd be cool. But most of the time I'm just playing because I just enjoy it. This is just a thing I enjoy doing because I'm doing it. And it's one of the very few things in my life but that's the case, because everything else has an outcome or expectation attached to it. Whereas when I pick up the guitar, it's just, I just like doing this thing. So when you just said there, it's like playing a musical instrument, I'm like, could life be like that? Comparative life be like that?
Well, let's get now plug to the Brian O'Loughlin podcast, because I did a solo episode on meditation, 6 different ways that aren't sitting cross-legged and do it. And one of the ways, number 6, was living life with more intention. And I gave the example of playing an instrument or playing with the kids, because that's a form of meditation. Because meditation is essentially a reality practice. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're just being. And I think people get lost sometimes around like, you're not meditating. That's meditation.
Yeah.
And if you can lean more into that, then potentially bringing that vibration or energy of play and joy to the rest of our life is more possible. And I even get this now with like the best singers and all. When they sing from the heart and I'm at a concert and I'm really connected, it's because they're just playing.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make me feel, they're not trying to do this thing or earn loads of money. They're just really in the moment, and therefore I can experience this moment. And that's what I think I'm trying to do with achieving goals. Now, again, you always get fucking pulled out of it, but then society is telling us to, you're less than, you need this, you should achieve. But the infinite game seems to keep coming back to me over and over again.
So just to try desperately to keep this somewhat on track in business relations, where does that show up for you in business specifically?
Well, I suppose like the decision I made professionally 7-8 months ago was like, because I had a successful business that was doing really well, but there was a disconnect in the sense of like, I don't really want to do this anymore. So I made the decision because, again, I want to live a certain lifestyle. I want to have connection with Sailor. I want to do great work with people specifically. And having that trust that, well, if I play this tune, this business, I have the trust that it's going to be okay. I don't have to go and chase this thing or even figure out kind of what I'm even going to achieve over the next year, 2 or 3. And I've leaned that now, and you've seen it might change over the last 2 or 3 months. How much more present am I? How much more?
It's a complete transformation.
Yeah, because but I'm genuinely like living for the first time in about 2 or 3 years, going like, no, really what I want to do. And that's how I ultimately built Movement 101. Doing great work with Rob, like really believing in what we were doing before it turned into something of like, oh, more and just achieve and just get money. I was like, no. And that's why even these lessons are so important, because like we all get lost down the world that we're in, particularly professionally, because I've got kids, there's a mortgage, like, you've got to survive in the sense of earning money. But so that's what has been, I've been able to shift and change in my career. And I'm sure in 5 or 10 years time, I'm going to have the fucking same issues to change and kind of lean into that as well.
Yeah, maybe that's why it has an impact on me when you say it, because you're now leaning into it, you're living it, and you're kind of expressing that a little bit. So when you say it, I can kind of see it in context. That's maybe like, oh yeah, you're saying this thing that you're doing, and I can see you doing it. I can see how it's changing you. So maybe that's why it's making more sense. But
again, you have shifted as well.
I'm going through a shift now at the moment as well, and that is definitely a part of it. It is definitely a part of it, but that it's weird that when you say it, it has that impact on me. But because I know all the other lessons, we've all read the books, and money's not the source of happiness and all that kind of stuff. But you don't have anywhere to be,
and that's why maybe what I was saying, because it's not the money, it's the goals.
Yeah,
because you can look at this from a fat loss perspective, from a relationship perspective, from any perspective. So it's the goals that we're all chasing after, and again, those goals are important because there's standards, there's action steps to allow us become the people we want to become. But again, that's the process. That's the infinite game. It's not the fucking thing.
It really takes the pressure off the whole thing.
You can enjoy it.
And you can start to enjoy it a bit more. And as we all know, it's cliche, but the more you enjoy it, generally the more successful you're going to be at it, because you're enjoying the process. The man who loves to walk goes further than the guy who has to go.
So look, we banged on too long with this point. So let that be the takeaway maybe from this point for me, is that can we just enjoy more what we do? And I'm talking from a professional capacity, but I've found that the more I lean into that enjoyment of professionally, it eeps into everything again, with Sailor, with Danielle, with you, with my life in general. And then for me, it's like what I'm doing now, I would say, is a vocation as opposed to a job. And not all of us are lucky enough to kind of find that and explore that. Like I struggle to find that myself, but like it's certainly much more fulfilling than just fucking chasing something that won't ever give it to me.
Very nice. Point number 2. Let's go. Point number 3. Ian's checking his watch. He's worried about how we're,
how
we're maintaining our time.
James, it's like, hurry up.
Yeah. The number 3 for me would be interested in your clients / customers / the people you work with and around. So that could be co-workers, colleagues, etc. as well, I would say. But this idea of being interested, something we would have talked about maybe outside this context before, but there's loads of elements to this for me. So I'll talk about the places I see it popping up most often for me. Number 1 is I want to find the work I do interesting. Obviously, most of us would like to be interested in the thing we're doing. Even if you're not interested in the specific task that you're doing, you can be. I did a very interesting episode recently with a guy called Richie Corcoran, and he is a guy who works in the corporate space. He has a job, but he has taken this approach of entrepreneurship where he starts to treat his role as almost like a business for him. So it gives him the opportunity maybe to take a bit more responsibility or to reframe what he's doing.
Sorry, you know what? I was actually talking to a client and she works with an American company and she was told by the American company to do that.
Yeah.
That's a very American thing.
Is it a very American thing?
Because she works in the company and she was told, look at your role as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you can bring yourself to it. That's interesting.
Yes. You can start to find areas where you can actually get a lot more from what you're doing, even if the thing you're doing, because he said to me, like, I work in spreadsheets fundamentally, but he can find a lot more value in that for him and his sense of purpose and a sense of self by framing it differently and framing all the different areas and the people he works with and how he shows up for people, all the stuff we would have to think about. We don't have a choice but to think about this because the business fails if we don't do it. Whereas when you're in a role like that, it seems you don't have to think about a lot of that kind of stuff. You're there to do the job or whatever, and there's kind of guardrails up. Don't say this, but you can say this and do whatever. Where obviously from an American point of view, what Richard was saying, you can take a bit more ownership there. But for me, one of the main reasons I think we start businesses, well, I speak for me and a lot of people I talk to, is because we want to do something we enjoy, we have a bit of an interest in, want to find a sense of purpose and meaning in what we do. Obviously, we want to build a lifestyle and all that kind of thing as well. But making a conscious decision to be interested as opposed to, oh, I didn't find that person interesting, was a really cool shift for me a while ago, because I used to do this socially. Jill to tell you, I'm fucking terrible for the thoughts of having small talk with people. But when I started to shift my mindset a little bit, my step 1 is don't put myself in situations where I'm going to have small talk. My step 2, if I'm in a situation, I don't want to make the person feel bad.
You're very good at this though, I think. You have a natural ability to make people feel at ease, I think.
If you want to know the honest answer, I think it was a defense mechanism that I built on that's become a positive thing.
Okay.
Again, a lot of the things I do now are a result of things that were not necessarily positive in my past. There are responses to that, and you could have a negative or a positive response. I've had a lot of positive responses, but I think for me it was a defense mechanism that if I could make other people feel good in the room, it's like the comedy thing. A lot of comics get into comedy as a defense mechanism, make people laugh, and then they want to ask you about how sad you are. So the whole thing of the clown who's crying, and that a lot of comics apparently struggle with their mental health as well, and it's inside. They create all this outward, make other people laugh, make other people happy, because then there's no way that they can point a finger at you and say there's somebody who's sad or who struggles there. So I think it came from a similar place in me where I was socially uncomfortable. So I started to just let other people tell stories and ask other people questions.
And was that a conscious thing?
Nope. It's now become a conscious thing. Now it's a principle that I lean into really, really strongly, but it's been developed off the back of probably an insecurity in me, which a lot of this stuff actually comes from. You have an insecurity and you don't want any chance that someone's going to point a finger at you and say, oh, but what about your deep dark secrets? So you let other people talk, get other people going, ask questions about other people's lives, ask people about, and now that I consciously think about it, we want to feel interesting. We want to feel validated. We want to feel like we're important. We want to feel like the things we're doing are worthwhile. So if you can give that to somebody else when you meet them, rather than making it about you, make it about them. And I don't mean be subservient and just manipulate the situation so they think they're the center of the conversation, but actually consciously decide I will be interested, even if I don't find
the
shipping lanes in the Middle East interesting. I was like, okay, what can I find? I don't know anything about shipping lanes in the Middle East. Geez, tell me about that. I don't know anything about that. And all of a sudden, they're now interested in you because you've shown an interest in them. And I've just found there's so many positives to come from this. And you make the other person feel quite good too. So loads of positive. In a business context, be interested in your clients. Again, it depends on the context of your business and what you do and how close you interact with your clients. But in our style of businesses where we have deeper relationships with our clients, we have a lot of contact, a lot of face-to-face time, I have found 2 benefits. One is I work with really interesting people now because I find them interesting. I make a conscious effort. I'm like, I have a lady, her name is Sharon, who works in credit management. So she helps other businesses manage credit and debt and stuff like that, which inherently I find
it seems pretty boring.
So fucking boring. She's so interesting. And her business is so interesting, and the dynamics and the challenges she had are so interesting. And I only found this out by talking to her on her initial consultation. You see the call come up, you see her name, you see her position, you're like, what the fuck am I going to talk to this woman about? And 5 minutes in, we have this connection because I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. It's something I didn't know. So it's a conscious effort. For me, down what that builds then is you build a bit. People always talk to me about all these interesting people coming into Prymal. I'm like, oh yeah, there is, because I find them all interesting. Everyone who comes in, they're interesting. They've got a story. They've got something they want to do. Their goals are interesting to me because, when you come in for the consultation, 5 minutes in, I'm asking you about like your relationship with your partner, right. What's going on, and because I want to know what you are trying to do, and if I can figure out what you're trying to do, I can help you more with that. But then I realized that's actually really interesting. Like, Jesus, what you were building, move on 101 and tell us. That's fucking fascinating to me. Wow, that's really cool. And now I'm interested in the work. I'm interested in the people. I'm interested in seeing you succeed. Genuinely, I'm invested in seeing you succeed more than just what that's going to mean to my business.
That's what you're doing. You're helping others succeed.
And now I'm helping.
Yeah.
I'm able to help because I found it interesting. So like being interested in your client, the obvious derailing factor to that, especially like at my stage or really early on in business, is money. Because you just I'll take anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care. I just need the money. Because it's a fear and a scarcity mindset, which is understandable because you're trying to, you've overheads and coming out your ears and you're not making enough money, etc. And even at my level, definitely at my level, that's always a consideration. Like, I need the money, I'll do anything.
Well, surely at any level though. Because again, as you go bigger in scale, there's more expenses.
From people I talk to, it doesn't seem to change no matter how big your business grows. But I think this is a nice way to, not completely, because you can't ignore it, the money conversation, obviously, but this as a priority, as a top of the hierarchy, it has for me led to finding more people I'm genuinely interested in. One, because I find more people interesting because I'm being interested. I'm active in my interest. And number two, it seems to attract other people as well. Because you now have all these interesting people. You're willing to have interesting conversations. We do a lot of this on mic. Some people find this so boring.
Yeah.
Some people find this really interesting.
Yeah.
And then the people who get attracted to us, they're probably people like us. So we're like, oh, these people are interesting because they found us interesting. And it's the reverse of that as well. So it's just I've said the word interesting 1,000 times. We'll clip this as a drinking game. It means nothing to me anymore. But I think for me, as an active strategy, being interested in the person in front of you is a great strategy, even though it feels a bit weird at the start. I have to force myself to like this person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can actively start to be interested. And at some point you realize, okay, I've tried really hard. This is so boring to me. And maybe that's a sign to move on. But does that resonate? Does that show up for you?
It massively resonates. And I'm going to bring it down an avenue here that I hope is still kind of some context, because it's not necessarily a business thing, but I help a lot of people find their purpose. And ultimately, now again, it's not this simple because it's obviously quite an individual thing, but be more interested in what you do day to day. Bring more intention to what you do. Can you actually look deeper every single day? Because
this is what you help them do.
Yeah, but think about it. Because people think, and I would have thought purpose is this big grand thing, or this is the job, or what's the thing I'm missing? Because what I would have said 10 years ago, Dan, was that my purpose was movement and mobility. That's what I would have said. But I actually realized now over the last 2 or 3 years, my purpose is to question. So what's that mean? Oh, I use training to question. I can do what I do now to question. I can use fatherhood to question. But there's a depth there. And I think most people are trying to find this purpose, this thing, when actually you're saying there's a depth to it. And rather than trying to find the answer, because you're saying here, be interested, that brings you down around, that gives you opportunity, that gives you new information and can give you potentially a result or a new enlightenment that you didn't know. And I think that's why people struggle with purpose, because a lot of times we're doing things or we have businesses that we're not interested in. And find, like you said, if you're doing something you don't like, you can definitely find things that are interesting about what you do. I think that's the opportunity then that can maybe light you up or find different opportunities in your life to really lean into purpose. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That was actually part of the conversation with Richie as well. It was specifically around that sense of purpose. And I echoed what you said there, that I don't necessarily believe we all have this divine purpose that we're going to find one day. And if you don't find it, you've no purpose.
Yeah.
I believe we can find purpose in a lot of the things we already do. As an active process. I didn't even think about that when I mentioned this point, though, being interested in what you do as well and finding purpose and giving things meaning.
Well, even that, Doug, think about it, because you're saying there about the clients you work with. You work with really good, like unbelievable clients now. 4 or 5 years ago, you didn't. And the only way of finding those people, like
you were my client 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, Grant. I'm an idiot. But better people than me now. But like you were interested, and like I said, you're almost emitting that energy of this depth, of this connection. So you're going to find, particularly me and you, we're looking for a particular clientele to help or to work with, because we get great fulfillment. We're going to do better work with that. And think about that as well from a job, because I've been in jobs where I've hated. And like, I don't bring myself to it. Like, it's just fucking awful. Yeah. So I don't have to bring myself to the job because I hate it, but can I bring more of an interested perspective to different elements of that job? That's a different thing altogether.
Very good. That's so interesting.
Oh, you fucking love interesting.
Jesus Christ, I love the fucking word interesting. That's so fascinating. A lot of the feedback that I would get in Prymal is when I ask people, like, why did you want to work with me? Is that they say, well, you're so passionate about what you do. And I'm doing something now. This is a tricky one. I'm doing something I'm really, really passionate about and really fascinated by. This forum. I'm really like leaning into understanding what we talked about it on your podcast recently. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
This connection, this space. It's not a podcast, it's not production. We've got a beautiful production here today. This was really fun. Ian's here, James here, you're here. We had great fun today putting this together, but it was work, and it's tough work. And a lot of figuring out, but it lights a certain part of me up. But I'm also fascinated by what we're doing right now, which is this space and the conversation and the exploration. I find it all really interesting. And the feedback I get is people feed off that energy. They're like, you're so into what you do. Do you ever meet someone and like they're into like, I don't know, shoelaces or something really obscure?
Yeah.
And I don't care about shoelaces, but I'm so into how much they're into shoelaces. They're so into the shoelace. You can just feel this energy. Like, I just want to be around this. I don't give a fuck about shoelaces, but maybe I'll be a shoelace guy now. Just gotta want to spend time with you around your shoelaces.
Well, Joe, shout out to Jamesy, because Jamesy told me what vitality meant in Latin.
Oh yeah, he mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh, did he mention it in the podcast?
Yeah.
So vitality is the in the becoming of.
Yeah.
So what you're saying there, like you have and like I have, luckily enough, is that we're happy to be becoming what we are living and what we're doing, and that's an energy, that's a vitality, and that's elements that I struggled with. I was doing things that I didn't want to become. Even go back to your first point, maybe, if you're not telling the truth, etc. So that vitality is an energy. And are you becoming who you want to be? Are you leaning into what you want to lean into? Are you living a life that's in alignment with who you are? Yeah. And that's just questions that maybe don't give ourselves space to.
Very interesting.
Jesus. We just got a podcast in this one point.
I know, yeah. That is a fascinating one. Right, point number 3, take home from me would be make being interested in what you do and in the people you work with an active process. It's an active process. Even if they're not inherently interesting to you, you can actively start to find a bit of purpose or meaning or interest in that thing or that person. In my experience, like we've just gone on about that, man, the benefits are incredible, really incredible. And other people pick up on that, even if it's not specifically the mission you're setting out on. Other people pick up on your interest and your energy and your passion and your drive. Richie also echoed that in that corporate space as well, in that job space. You get noticed. People notice. There's something about this guy. There's something about Richie. He's making moves. He's doing things. We often said about James as well. Like, he's making moves. He's doing things. He's putting an energy out there. The structure might not be extremely clear. It's clear to James. Might not be clear to a person. Just like what I do. People are like, what do you do? Loads of different things. But the energy, it's there. Passion, motivation, interest, and that's infectious. And people want to be involved in that. So make being interested in what you do and who you do it with an active process.
Yeah, we're going very deep in these points. How are we doing over time?
We're good. We're okay. We're good.
Because you know what I was just thinking there? Now it's like a Wish version of Chris Williamson and Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey. Remember they were in the wood?
Matthew McConaughey.
No, not me and you. As in the place. Remember they were in this wooden place.
Wait, this is not a wish version. It's a beautiful room.
No, the room is beautiful. You're a Wish version of Chris Williamson.
I'm a wish version. I am a wish version. I'm the guy who shows up and you can't afford Chris Williamson.
Yeah, so that's what I just want to say.
Yeah, I don't have the British accent.
My fourth point.
That just come into your head there.
It did. I was thinking of the wood now. So if you haven't seen that episode, you'll think I'm an idiot. But like if you saw the episode.
It is beautiful. Is that the one at the barn?
I think it's the barn as well. So maybe it's not the same context.
It was beautiful though. It was lovely. And we did it with the cowboy then.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Moving on. Point number 4 for me, evolution is what I've written down. And maybe it's a similar point to my one that I made, but the importance of space for my own development. And we've talked about it in the past.
Not going to have my point.
Is that your third point?
That's my third point.
Oh, for God's sake.
We'll amalgamate them.
And look, not necessarily about the space, but the idea of evolution. I've kind of already mentioned it, of me making change and me leaning more into what I want to lean into, etc. But what I've learned from my 10, 11 years as an entrepreneur is that I'm developing as a man. My values are shifting as a man, whether I actively do it or not. So when I started my business 10 years ago, I didn't have kids. I didn't have the life that I have now. I didn't have the responsibility that I have now, but now I do. So like whether I intentionally work on my values or intentionally bring myself to what I'm doing today, I am fundamentally a different person. So that development is happening. And what I've found, and I think what I'm going to lean more into throughout my career, is making sure that I have the space to be like, am I me? Am I doing what I want to do? Am I being creative down different avenues? Like, do I have the space necessary to be like, right, where am I at right now? And does this feel like a bit of me? As opposed, like I said, the very first time, of just chasing goals for the sake of them. And like, you know me, like personally, me and you, how much have I been telling you how much I wanted to do this for years? And you're like, yeah, that's grand, Brian, but you're doing this thing. That's the complete opposite of what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, don't worry, Dan, because this is the answer here. But that's what I'm saying is that, and look, it's a process. I'm not going to get it right. I even knew then that I was in the adaptation of developing. But that space for me becomes even more important, because if I'm going back to saying the infinite game, what's the point of all this then? Like, I'm not bringing that vitality. I'm not bringing that energy. I don't have that ease and joy day to day if I don't at least look at myself honestly and go, like, who am I as a man? What do I want? And again, go back to me. This is the work that I do with clients as well. Because even before finding your purpose, like, what are your values? What are your needs? What really drives you day to day? And like I said, that has evolved for me massively over 10 years. Like, if you again, 10 years ago, I want this thing. I don't want that thing now. A lot of it I've experienced, a lot of it I've achieved goals. Now I'm like, I actually want something completely different. And then I do have kids. So a big thing for me, I literally drop Sarah to school every morning. I pick her up every afternoon, apart from this afternoon because I'm here doing this. But I want that. I didn't need that 10 years ago. So if I want that now, again, can I create that space? Like, how do I want my business to look? How do I want the impact to look? And that evolution is happening without my knowing, or it can happen with a bit more intention. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I'm going to actually, because space wasn't your point there, so I'm going to pull you back from the brink of trying to butcher my point. It was
evolution.
It was evolution, yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. As you're saying evolution, and you say you didn't necessarily have a choice. You are a different person fundamentally now than you were 10 years ago. I think that's a really interesting way to look at this from like an active or a conscious standpoint. You are going to change over time. And it can be a positive change or a negative change, because life happens, things happen. And whether it's becoming a father or starting a business or getting into a relationship or starting a new job or whatever it might be, things happen that force you to change. But I think that's an interesting exercise, because knowing that, if we know that we are going to change based on things we go through, I don't like the word forced, but this idea of forced evolution, you can put things in front of yourself that even if you're not 100% sure what the purpose is, or that it's going to be uncomfortable, or what the outcome is, you know that out the other side of that, you're going to be a different person. And then what you can start to do maybe is recognize that there are, I'll use context now in the business sense, but recognize that there are things that generally have more positive evolutions and things that generally have more negative evolutions. So for example, let's say I'm going to go out and party every night for the next year. I'm going to be a different person at the end of that. But it's probably not going to be a positive change. I'm going to be underslept. I'm going to have alcohol poisoning. I'm going to have a completely different social scenario. My business and family are going to fall apart, etc. Or if I make a decision, I'm going to go for a walk every day for the next year. I'm going to be a different person after doing that thing consistently over time. And I'm pretty safe in saying that it's probably going to be a better person. Going to be a little bit healthier, a little bit fitter, going to have been outside more, going to have more time to think, going to meet new people out there, going to have more access to nature. There's probably going to be positive outcomes. And all I have to do really is go for the walk. I don't have to figure out all the bits in between. But what will I say if I meet somebody out there? And I just have to go for the walk. And what happens, happens. And I'll just adapt as I go. And the more I do it, the more I will adapt. So I like this idea in business then of a huge issue I would have, and a problem I see coming up all the time, is an unwillingness to do things because I'm afraid of what might happen with that thing.
Yeah.
But maybe if I can start to identify, I know that if I do this thing that's outside my comfort zone, I'm going to be a different person on the other side. I think the key there is selecting the things that are worth spending my time on and doing it, not necessarily having to have all the bits together yet.
Yeah.
So not going, well, I know every step of this journey. Just saying, I know the first step of this journey, and in general, this tends to be a positive journey. So what would an example of that be? So let's say releasing a new service, right? I know that the outcome of this service, or the outcome of me releasing this service, is probably going to be positive, because I'll have spent all this time and energy. I'll have learned new skills. I'll have built something. I'll have failed at certain things and had to figure out problems. I'll have all these different things I will have had to do to get this done. So the outcome's probably going to be positive, and I'll have a new service. So there's two positives there. That's forced evolution. I don't have to know how each one of those steps goes, which was my biggest problem. It still is a huge problem for me. I want to know what every step looks like before I take the first one. Whereas if I just take the first one, and a business mentor of mine is constantly telling me this, it's like, Dan, you're trying to think 7 steps ahead. Just do step 1. But before that, which is my last point we'll talk about in a second, is that space piece. You have to know what direction you want to go.
Yeah.
But I think not having to have each step along the way and accepting that you're going to evolve and change and just take the first step could be a really powerful business deal.
And you know what? Because you said forced evolution, and shout out to Phil Graham. Phil Graham was a mentor of mine
New Devils.
Yeah, but 3-4 years. And during COVID, and again, we all had to pivot during COVID, Phil kept mentioning forced evolution.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
This thing has happened. This thing has occurred. You are now being forced to evolve. And I remember, and a lot of business owners would be like, fuck, what are we going to do here? My business is gone. And we pivoted and we became very successful during COVID. But that was a huge reason. And any entrepreneur will know, like, there's forced evolution everywhere. And are we genuinely leaning into that, or are we not? And again, as much as we are changing, the market is changing, AI is changing. Like, so are we going to ignore it? We're going to pretend it's not there, and go back to your very first point again about telling the truth, grant to clients, but even to yourself. Because then this is the issue, I think, as well, around evolution. You can lie to yourself. Oh, this thing isn't happening, or I am not this person, or this. And then me and you have said this, and I definitely believe this. I think most failure in business is psychological. It's very rarely the product or the service.
100% great.
Because we end up just fucking lying to ourselves and not being able to evolve consciously, or we just give up. It gets overwhelming. Like, many reasons why it occurs. But as you said, life is changing, business is changing, the landscape is always changing, and that's the difficulty of being an entrepreneur. Because find the answer. And the best thing is, so I leaned in of me making this decision personally and professionally, and you really helped me see this, was that, well, look what I built over the last 10 years. Look at the experience I have and the expertise I have. Fall back on that. So you can evolve, you can trust, move into the uncertainty and the unknowing of what you're going to do through what you have done. And that's evidence that at least I can fall back on and believe in, and hopefully it'll keep me good in the future.
Yeah, part of what you went through with this change was, I'm starting from zero again.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? You are this completely different machine now. And in the space of, what do we know, May, 4 months, you've basically
6 months.
6 months. You've done what it took almost 10 years to do before, because you had evolved so much over that decade that's now you. You're a different person starting this business than you were starting the original business. And that was just you didn't consciously go through those 10 years thinking, well, I'm going to use all these skills to start my next business. That was just a forced evolution to get to where you got to. And now you had all of that evolution done, which stood to you with the next thing you did. So it's happening right now with AI. And on this idea of forced evolution, maybe there's an extra element to it. You have to be open to that evolution. So a situation could force you to either evolve or maybe break. Maybe that's the way it is. You'll be forced to do something. You'll either be forced to evolve or, and this is the thing about business, why I think it's a really good teacher for us specifically. I don't know what everyone's experience like, but if you don't evolve or you don't learn a lesson, you will fail.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier on, in our opinion, most of businesses, startups, let's say, not businesses, most startups will fail because of the person and their psychology and emotional regulation, their ability to manage their own emotions in the context of the business and how they make decisions. And in these situations, let's use this AI one right now. My business will be fundamentally affected by AI because there's production elements, there's video elements, there's script writing elements, there's all these different things that come out through AI, and that can be done now in the blink of an eye. Which used to be things like that businesses like mine provided as products, as core products. I could either fight that and fail and the business will die, or I can evolve. So I would be forced to either evolve or forced to fail. One thing that's pretty certain is I can't just keep going as I'm going. And this is for so many things that have come up for me in business. I can't just keep doing this because I will fail. And you'll point something out to me, or a coach will point something out to me, or I'll recognize it myself. It'll bring up so much friction for me. And then I'm presented with a decision. And that's my decision. And I can decide to ignore that and keep going, which in some cases I have done. And I'm paying the price for that now. Or I can lean in and evolve. And that has forced me to evolve to become a different person. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to do it. But okay, I'm going to lean into this one, and I've changed. It's forced me to change, and I've grown. So there is a moving part in there. It doesn't just happen, but recognizing and putting those situations in front of yourself can be a positive strategy. Again, being intentional about it. Okay, I know what direction I'm going. I have clarity around what this means. Okay, I will lean into this despite the fact it's uncomfortable, and I don't need to know all the moving parts. I'm either going to succeed and evolve or not succeed and fail.
Yeah. So to finish off maybe this point, because I think it's kind of evolved even this point, is that because I was going at the personal element of evolution, but you're right in terms of the professional element as well. And I think it was Naval that said, ultimately, like, personal development, professional development is just making the decision for the long term. Yeah. That's ultimately what you're trying to do, and not just go for the short term, easy answer and going, okay, let's look at a year or 10. What's the decision I have to make now to make sure that it's going to be successful, it's going to progress down an avenue that I want. But I think the fundamental point with this is that evolution or change is happening. And are we at least conscious? Are we at least like looking at the reality of it? And then to some degree, are we trying to develop that with intent would be my point with this.
Beautiful. Okay, moving on. Last point each. And these will link in, I think, very tightly with all the previous points. But for me, at the top of this whole pyramid, the biggest one, I mentioned it before, we did an episode on it before. It's the biggest thing that came out of my recent coaching sessions with this coach that I'm working with is perspective and space. Most of the bad decisions or suboptimal decisions that I've made in my entire life, but in business, I can probably directly trace to me not having given myself enough space or time to think about it, therefore not having any real perspective on it. Perspective meaning not understanding what this decision is in relation to me and my emotions, not understanding what this decision, the real impact this decision will have on my business, not understanding how to approach a certain decision or a certain action I want to take. And all of that comes from me just not giving myself any space. Because what tends to happen with me, and subsequently I found with a lot of people in this kind of position, if you're running businesses or in these type of situations, is that you just keep moving from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. And you actively actually fill your time with things because that feels more comfortable. The madness and the chaos feels more comfortable than having to sit back for 5 minutes and make decisions. Because almost definitely, if you sit back and look at your business, you'll see patterns that you've been following or decisions you've been making that aren't helpful and that aren't right, but they're comfortable because you just keep making them. So what'll happen to me, and I know I shared this on our space episode, but I look at my calendar and if there's space, I'll immediately look to fill it. And what I'm trying to look at doing now, because there's a guilt associated. I've all these different things. Somebody asked me, like, are you busy? I'm like, I have a million things I need to do. And I do. I genuinely have a million. I have this vision. I have all these different tasks. I have deliverables. I have stuff that is a non-negotiable I have to do. So stuff I have to deliver these things to clients. I have to do these edits. But I also have things that I need to do on the business to grow the business. And they're two completely different challenges. So in the business, it's the day-to-day, the madness, the serving clients, the writing invoices, the editing podcasts, the shooting content, the consultations, the sales, the marketing, all these pieces in the business. On the business, the strategy, the plan, the growth, the perspective, but I almost do none of that because it feels weird and uncomfortable to me when I'm so busy to like book out a half an hour to sit and think. And every single arrow and indicator in my life is pointing towards better decisions and growth will come if I actually just put in a half an hour. My mission at the moment is 10 minutes a day, 5 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, to just get a bit of fucking perspective. I wake up and literally it's like 10 lines. I'm just practicing at the moment. Write 10 lines. What's your intention for the day? What do you want to do? Get a bit of perspective on the day. Like, what is this? Whereas what I generally tend to do is wake up straight into it. Edits, emails, stuff. We talked about the Eisenhower matrix before. I'm all about the non-important urgent stuff, like just stuff I'm just like, just get this stuff out, has to be done. Whereas if I was able to make better decisions, most of that stuff I would probably have outsourced already. I'd have another member of the team doing it. I'd have someone handling my admin and my emails, and I'd have somebody doing the bits of editing and stuff I'm doing if I had any sort of perspective on the business. But that's uncomfortable, because that requires me to not do anything for a little while and just give myself a bit of breathing room and a bit of space and get some bandwidth back and actually think about things, which is my responsibility as the business owner. But that's really uncomfortable. So almost everything else here will probably come downstream as a result of gaining a bit more perspective, because most of us, I feel, kind of know what we should be doing in our business. Most of us have like had conversations with people who've told us this information. We've listened to podcasts, we've read the books, we have the information, but it's uncomfortable. So we'd rather just be busy. And this doesn't just go for business, but it's a really important lesson in business, because there's no growth in my experience, personal experience, and from working very closely with you and almost every other business owner I meet, there's no growth that's sustainable or manageable or even practical without that perspective, without the space to think about it and to allow, because a lot of us are creative people. If you start a business, generally there's something about you that wants to build or grow or be creative. I don't mean just in the creative industry, any business. You're thinking, you're putting things together, you're solving problems, you're doing all these different things. So most people in that space are relatively creative. That can't happen if it's forced.
No,
it just can't happen if it's forced. And I literally work in the creative industry as well, so I know about creativity too. And I'm like looking at clients who come in and can't seem to like express themselves, and because they're so overwhelmed and overworked, there's a million things going on. So I advise them, like, let's just take the pressure off here, remove expectation, let's get a little bit of perspective, let's just sit and think for a while. And then I'm like, hold on, I should be doing that too. So for me, all of these other bits come as a result of you being able to give yourself a little bit of perspective and space. I know this comes up in every second podcast I do, but for me, that's why I think it's a lesson worth learning for me, because it keeps coming up and slap me in the forehead. Space. Right now, I'm at the I'm on the other side of a really nice block of work with my coach. The one thing that's come out of it, need a little bit more space. These 2 weeks, busiest 2 weeks of the year so far. I'm like, come on, fuck, man. You need to start acting on this stuff, because I personally find that when I do it for any sustained amount of time, just everything just seems a little bit clearer. Everything just seems a little bit clearer. And I make my best decisions with that level of clarity and bandwidth. So for me, most important one, kind of ties in with everything else. Yeah,
there's two perspectives for me as you're talking there. Again, go back to Phil Graham. Phil Graham taught me the idea of this space. And oftentimes when we are so busy and in turn we are successful, that when we start to let go, or we have team, or we build systems, so therefore we're doing less, that we have to give space for our nervous system to adapt to this newness. And what does that mean? Well, it's going to feel uncomfortable because normally, like you said, you feel that space. So I think having at least a knowing that when you make this change, or you're moving into the space, that it's going to be uncomfortable, that's what you should be experiencing. And it changed my life when Phil taught me that, 6-7 years ago. And then for me, with clients, because this is what I help clients create space. Like clients I deal with are extremely successful, sometimes working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, have kids, have huge responsibilities. I can't give them any more time. So what can I do? Try to create more space. And genuinely, pretty much every single person, one thing I'll definitely give them is, for the first hour of your day, don't go on your phone. Honest, for 99.9% of people, I'll do that. Why? Because I did it for years. Straight to emails, straight to any work that has to get done, clients, etc. If it's not that, what are we doing? Fucking social media. And what you do? Well, before you know it, half an hour is gone. And you got to get fucking ready for work. I haven't got time, or the kids, or whatever. So this idea of a morning routine is key for me, but you don't need this huge, massive morning routine. If you don't go on your phone for the first hour, watch. You'll be like, what the fuck do I do? What will I do now? Or what? And before you know it, in the space of a week or 2 or 3, as your nervous system adapts, then you can start to add things and create a morning routine. But just that alone. And that's the idea with this, I think, is like, you don't have to necessarily do anything in that space. Sit with the uncomfortableness, sit with the emotion that's coming through. And that's what I think most of us find difficult. That's what I would have really struggled with, because what's coming up is the insecurity, or the fear, or the, I'm not good enough. Because what do? I'm going to fill it with what I did. But like I said, going back to all the points that I made on this podcast, is like, it's not the goal, it's not the external. So that's what I think, the more you lean into that space, the more you allow yourself to adapt, it can actually be progressed and become something. And that's what I found in my time. But that space, man, we keep talking about space constantly. And it's just one thing that modern life doesn't give you.
That's why it's so frustrating to me, because even as you're talking there, I'm thinking there's like a, when people hear those type of tips, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, I'm going to do this thing. I heard this guy on a podcast say this thing, don't go on my phone for the first hour of the day, I'm going to try that. But I think what derails us all is that discomfort, because we expect, I'm going to do this thing and feel great. And you actually do this thing and feel 1,000 times worse. Because I'm just thinking about, even this morning, like, I fucking got my phone out and checked my emails at like 5:30. I was on my emails. I'm talking about this space, I'm talking about this thing all the time. I know I crave it, I know I need it, I know it's something that's going to really help me in my life, but it's so uncomfortable.
And there's also an element though here of habit here, because you think if you don't go on your emails, your business is going to die, and everyone's going to fall apart.
Someone's going to be angry at me.
But that's what Phil would say about the adaptation. When you actually start to do it for a week or two, you go, oh Jesus, everyone's looked after. Everyone's actually, and I feel a bit better. So I think, again, Hormozy would say, like, how do you confidence? You get the evidence. Yeah. So you have to lean into that bit of discomfort and then prove to yourself, my business hasn't got better. Actually, I feel better. But that's what I mean. I think most of the changes I give clients, most of the changes that have changed my life have been the fucking simplest things in the world.
It's so cliche
that we know,
true.
But to do them, that's the hardest thing. So you have to get, I think this is a huge thing you said there. Like, because everyone says like meditation is not what I thought it was. I thought it'd be lovely and peaceful. It's not. It's a reality practice, and you feel like fucking shit.
Gut check.
Yes, but you got to feel that, because that's what's driving us. Like, that underlying fear was driving me for fucking years. Hence why I was fucking chasing all this money and all this thing. And then you get it, you go, I still feel fear, but I'm not giving myself space to feel it. And I think go back to the level of awareness. And that's what you've garnered now. And you are right, because I'm going to call your bullshit over the next few months. If you don't keep leaning into this, you've no one to blame but yourself. And it's uncomfortable. It's up, but then go back to the environment and the support system. And these points that we are making, we keep seeing the same points over and over again. And eventually it becomes on us to be like, okay, I'm full of shit here.
I was only laughing because we keep going on podcasts and saying the same thing for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And with this is the process for us. If we keep coming on saying this, and then like Jill calls me out, or you call me out, or someone calls me out, you say all these things in the podcast, you don't do any of them, eventually maybe it'll stick for me. This is my accountability process.
But you know what, then also, because I think I'm getting better at this, there's a level of self-compassion. A lot of this is habitual. a lot of this, you are evolving and changing. It just takes time.
Yeah.
And I always say to you, I can't wait for 10 years' time. We're like, fair play to us. Because 10 years become an overnight success. If you keep leaning in, keep having these conversations, we're going to fucking change. Because we're not having these conversations for the crack. We genuinely want to change. We genuinely want to live and be and have this impact. And that's why we don't need more information. We just need to fucking do.
Right job.
So turn off this podcast now.
We just keep giving the same information
Stop
over and over again.
Stop listening to this podcast.
Yeah, fair play to anyone who's listening to this, because you've heard this point, the same point in 20 different ways over the last 3 years, but keep coming back for more. And we've just uncovered the meta lesson for this podcast, by the way. The real lesson behind all these fake lessons that we're given is that idea of, I was thinking as you were saying it, that when you try these things, you think they're going to fix you because these people said it who were talking about they're gurus or
they're millionaires.
They're millionaires or they're doing all these different things. And then you realize you do the thing and it's actually, your life is worse.
Well, you said to me about Hermosi, because Hermosi always says like these morning routines that all these people do. Yeah, you weren't doing them when you were building your fucking business. You're doing it now because you're a millionaire and you got the time and the space and the fucking business built. When you're in the middle of a
7-hour morning routine that involves diamonds and
that's why it's hard though, because we're consuming the content. And I think at the very least, me and you, because like we aren't fucking successful Uber people who have all the answers. We're trying to give our in the middle of all this. And that's why I always say to you, I can't wait for 10 years time, because if you haven't fucking leaned in 10 years time, Dan, we're a pair of fucking arseholes. Yeah.
I envision it like we walk into the studio, right? We're in this just chaos and fireball and hurricanes and lightning and people screaming at each other, right? And we walk into the studio and close the door for a second. It's like, right, we just stepped out of that madness for 2 seconds to talk about all the shit we're going through. And then as soon as we finish, right, great to see you, Brian. And we just open the door to this like fire and just walk back into the fire again for another 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, 100%. The perspective and space piece, all of the tools, all of the morning routines and the meditations and the journaling and the breath work and the coaching and all this, for me, it tries to give you this perspective and space. When you have the perspective and space, you make better decisions. For me, that should be, I won't say should be. For me, that is priority number one. And it's the thing I struggle with by far the most. Hence, I keep bringing it up on podcasts because I keep wanting to be called out about it and be accountable for it. And perspective and space, my big take home. And then the meta lesson within that, which is it's going to be shit. It's shit. It's so shit. When I'm sitting in that moment and I've like given myself 20 minutes or I try and journal in the morning, I'm literally feel the pen shaking because I'm like, there's 50 things I could be doing right now that are going to move the business forward. But I know that one email I send is going to have zero impact on my business. That 10 minutes could have a 10x impact on my business by just giving me a bit more perspective.
And then maybe, because I'm getting really clear of what I'm doing with clients, and there's two things that I do. I help improve their capacity, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I help them build more space. And what do you not lack? You don't lack the capacity. You've got the emotional, mental, the physical.
I don't know, but
no, you do. But what you do lack is the space. Yeah. So the idea is like oftentimes we'll chase the perfect morning routine, or we'll chase, nutrition or training. You have all those things dialed. And the idea is that you have the capacity, you just don't have the space to fully lean into that capacity. And oftentimes we're missing both. But I think that's all it ever is for all of us: capacity and space. And I think as you get older, with responsibility, the space becomes more difficult. So we end up reducing our capacity. It's always just them two things. Does that make sense?
I like that. Yeah, I like that framing. Okay, the last one.
My last point is, I kind of feel now I'm kind of saying the same thing over and over again. But my last one.
Welcome to the Prymal podcast, where we say the same thing over and over again.
The last thing then is that defining success for me will always change. And I've already kind of mentioned a little bit as regards evolution and then for there nowhere to be. Because again, if you had told me from day one when I was an entrepreneur that I am here where I am now, I'd be like, yeah, tick it off. Like, you have become successful. But again,
you're on the Prymal podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then it's like, no, success is always ever changing. And then am I living in alignment? So, because you were great for me on this, particularly over the last 4 or 5 years, because like I'd be going to build this thing or get this thing and you'd be like, do you actually want that? Because then you're like, oh, actually, I haven't even fucking asked that question, because you're just going to chase the income or the clients to come in and you're like, wait a second, do I actually want this? And then again, it's difficult in the moment when you're doing the thing and you're in the coal mine of it all and you're actually doing it. Because again, externally it's successful, but you're in the middle going like, is this actually what I want? But go back to what you just said there, that last previous point, the space. If I can at least create that space for myself, I can then go like, is this success to me? Is this how I want to define success? Is this what I do want to chase? And then go back to what I said about this constant evolution. There's nowhere really to be. So at least can I have a knowing that success will probably evolve and change? Do I have a knowing that is this what I kind of really want to do? And then I think everything we're talking about here, I think there's always a trade-off, isn't there? Because again, you have responsibility, I have responsibility, you have to earn money, you have to do things. But as you said, we have built businesses for a reason. And sometimes we can end up, like we're getting away from the 9 to 5, the jobs that we don't want to have because we have growth and we have impact and we have opportunity. And sometimes you can build something that is essentially the exact same 9 to 5 that you did not want to have.
Except it's a fucking 8 to 8.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a 24/7.
For 10% of the
365. Yeah, there's no fucking time off. But then just redefining success. And the men I work with, or the lads I work with, they've more the trappings than I'll ever have. And that's
as in money and
money,
success
exactly,
and
in the lifestyle. And they're not necessarily happy or content or peaceful. And like, that's not success to me. Like I was successful sitting in a home that I was able to buy, I was able to provide for my family, and I wasn't there with Sailor. I wasn't fucking present. I was so fucking wired and thinking about the next thing that had to get fucking done. That's not success to me. You know, it really isn't. And I've got to check myself constantly, being like, is this a success? And again, everything that we're talking about here, if you think I have it all fucking sussed, I don't. Like, you know, I might sound like a fucking guru here with all these great fucking sayings.
No, you definitely don't sound like a
get
guru.
good, because I'm not. But like, I definitely want to live more intentionally in my life as I get older, because I've just burnt myself out too much. I've gone down avenues that were not fucking me, and I do have responsibility. I said it on the podcast last time. I want to be at fucking Sailor's wedding in 25 years' time with that real fucking connection, and that's success to me. So if that's success to me, how am I living? What am I building? What's the life that I have created and I'm genuinely leaning into? And that's fucking work. That's effort. But like, it's effort that I have to make sure I make time for.
Yeah.
Because what about you and success?
2 pitfalls I see really commonly with me with success, and it seems to map over to a lot of other people as well. One is defining success based on what other people say or project success to be. So other people's values, which aren't really their values anyway. So it's
but
just,
is that also kind of normal with society? Because we were just going along.
Completely normal.
Yeah.
So I find this in personal and business lives. You're using other people as the metric for success.
Yeah.
See, your metric for success shifts depending on the people you keep company with. This is this whole idea of people who are wealthy. They're only wealthy if they're wealthier. They only feel wealthy if they're wealthier than other people.
And if someone's more wealthy than them, it's like, oh my God.
You hear people, and like the interesting situation we're in now, I was thinking about this as you were talking about the people you work with and I work with. We work with a standard of person now. Not a standard of person, sorry, that's the wrong way of putting it, but we work with businesses and people who operate in businesses at a completely different level. They're really, really big. The money is bigger, the decisions are bigger, everything is big. And they say the same thing. So up until now, it was more like, money is not important because we didn't have it. And success is important because we didn't have it. And that's what most of us do. We just belittle the thing we don't have. And what's that line? It's easier to... Naval says easier to achieve your goals than to renounce them, but it's actually more comfortable just to renounce. It's not about money, it's success because you never had it. So how can you have any perspective on that? But now I'm speaking to people who literally earn fucking millions, and they're saying the same thing. They're saying it just depends on your mindset and where you are and what you've defined as success, because there'll always be someone bigger, stronger, faster, more handsome, richer, faster car, bigger house, always. And you'll keep resetting your hedonic treadmill. You keep resetting your metric for success based on other people. So you'll never actually achieve contentment or happiness.
Exhausting, isn't it?
But we do it. We do it all the time. At any level we've been at, you're now at a new level. This is new level, new devils. Now the ceiling is a little bit higher for what success is, because you've met someone else who now has a more successful business than you, or has more clients than you, or a faster car than you, or whatever. Insert thing here. So defining your success off other people's metrics, it's just endless. Talk about an infinite game. That's an infinite failure. Yeah. It's never going to end. And when you are the most successful person, the most money in the world, like they interview the Bezoses and the Elons, and they always have this perspective piece because they've gotten to that level. You mentioned Phil a couple of times here. I like a lot of Phil's content now, and he's had a big shift. And a lot of the stuff he talks about now is, whoa, guys, I've made all the money. If that's what you want, be really, really clear that that's what you want, because for most of us, it's not. It's connection, it's value, it's family, and we burn a lot of those bridges in pursuit of this. So be very, very careful. And I like that message. So defining your success based off what other people think, really dangerous game, because generally it's misguided. And in a lot of cases, they don't even know what their metric for success is. So we're all chasing this fucking magic thing. And a lot of that is driven by consumerism and bullshit anyway. So there's so many messages telling you this is what success looks like, that's a trap straight away. That's a big pitfall for me. And the second thing is not really understanding what your own metric for success is, because then you're just aimless. So even if I wasn't basing my success off, I want as much money as this person, or as big a business as this person, or as many customers as this person, even in my own business, success gets really muddy. And I often, again, because I don't have the space or perspective, forget, like, what am I doing this for again? What's the whole point of this? Because you get caught in this loop of more, because more must mean success. And for me, most of those things are probably linked to some fundamental human value that you have. But if you don't know what that value is, you'll think it's the money. The money will make me feel accepted and respected. And that's a fundamental human value we all want. We all want to be loved, accepted, and respected. That's core.
Well, they
for
do
all of
say
us.
that entrepreneurs oftentimes are coming from pain, that insecurity.
100%. It's complete insecurity.
Like, that's 100% why I started a business.
For a lot of us, yeah. And we don't feel, that's not for me, and I'm going to start this business and just do my own thing. And it's a lot of emotion in there. But until you can define what those values are for yourself, I think trying to define success gets really tricky. Because what is it? Yeah, I want more freedom, but what is free? What are you going to do with that freedom? What does freedom mean to you? So I'm really trying to dig into, like, because I say that the lovely one, like, to spend more time with my family. But what does that really look like? Like, what am I going to do with my family with that time? What is my value? Do I want to build more connection? And am I going to take my kids and learn some skills? Are we going to travel? Like, what is that time and what is that freedom? Because until I define that, it's this wishy-washy idea of success. So I've got what other people say over here, and then I've got this idea over here of, well, if I've loads of money in a big business, people will like me. But what is that value? What am I craving there? What am I missing that I'm trying to fill with this business thing? Because I'm really doing a 180 on what I used to say. Everyone quit your job and start a business like 10 years ago. And everyone's like, entrepreneurs, amazing. I don't think that. No. And I think you're really careful with that, because like you said there, it's very common. And I see this all the time. And I go through phases like this really common. You build something that is just hell. And you've built it. You've done it to your fucking self. So you've guilt and shame attached with it. You've this sunk cost now. I've put 5 years in. I'm embarrassed. I can't stop. And you've trapped yourself in this cycle that you don't see your family as much as you would if you had a 9 to 5. You don't earn the kind of money you want that gives you freedom. You don't have connection with people because you're in the business the whole time. So you're like, what the fuck am I actually doing? Anything that I had positive in the job I left is now gone as well. And I still don't have this sense of purpose or meaning, or I don't feel successful, even though maybe the business does 20 million a year. That's not success. And I can say that more comfortably now because I know people who make 20 million a year and they say the same thing. So now it's not me just being begrudging. Fucking 20 million. I now know people who say that is not it. So defining it, really important. And the two traps I see, measuring it by other people's expectations and society's messaging around success, or not clearly having a good breakdown for yourself of what are the things you value. Like, what is this freedom that you're building? What does that look like? And you got me to do that perfect day exercise, and that was very helpful for me, but I don't do it enough. And maybe you can explain the exercise a bit more, but basically, what does that day look like? That freedom, what specifically? Wake up in the morning, what do you think about? What do you smell? How do you get out of bed? What do the covers feel like? Everything. What do your toes feel like on the carpet? It was really visceral. Who do you see? How much time do you spend with them? What do you do? Because it's not this idea of
on a beach, cocktails.
Bored out of your fucking mind. But that's not real. Like, where do you get your purpose from? What do you actually value? Do you value connection? Do you still want to have an impact? Like, what does that day look like? That's success. And if you can't define it, how do you know you're moving towards it? So really, really important. And again, how do you do that? Space.
Yeah. And then, but maybe even to finish off the point in terms of like an action step for people, because this is what I do with clients, I would have struggled with in the past, is that when you end up kind of having a disconnect with your success. So you said there you have the money, but yet you're not content, you're not happy, you're not peaceful, maybe you're not living in alignment with who you actually are. You're like, fuck, I'm in a bad place here. But I always flip it as an opportunity, because Carl Jung says life begins at 40. So oftentimes we do these things.
This is toxic positivity.
Yeah. But like we do these things externally, we get the thing and we go, fuck, I'm not happy, there's something wrong here. But I flip it with clients, go, it's an opportunity. Why? Because you're educated, you've done really well. If we can start to ask better questions, look at different areas of your life, you can be successful, quote unquote, down those avenues. You just haven't given them time. And I think it was, what's that book called? I can't think. The Road Less Traveled, Scott Peck. Scott Peck says love. What's love? Love is giving something time. So how do you love your child? You give them time. How do you love yourself? You give yourself time. And what most of us don't do is just give time to these things, and we just give time to the professional, to the money, to the thing. And if you've given anything time and been successful, you can give anything time and be successful. And that's the joys of that. And again, I would have struggled making a decision. I've made a decision like, okay, cool. So that's what I think. If you're struggling right now and you've got the thing, but it's not really aligning with you, it's an opportunity. As difficult as the emotion may feel now, as difficult as the experience may have been in your life over the last year, 2, 3, or however long you've experienced it, it's a genuine opportunity. So they always say, in that pain is the purpose.
In that pain is the purpose. Somehow, Brian, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversation on and off mic, I'm still learning things from these conversations. This is the space and perspective. Yeah. I'm still feeling and learning and getting context.
Well, these conversations me and you have are great. We always say, I don't know if anyone finds value in them, but we genuinely...
Let us know.
But we love having these conversations.
We do get good feedback, to be fair.
Yeah, but we love having these conversations.
Yeah. But it is interesting to me that like, even though we keep doing this and saying the same things, every time we do, I get... It's like another little piece of the puzzle comes together for me. Like we wrote these points. This came out of us. This went like, oh, look at these new things. These are all things we discuss regularly. We regularly talk about them. We've regularly talked about them on the podcast. And still, this is why I mentioned at the start, these are lessons I'm constantly learning. I think these, for me, have come up as the most fundamental things, but I'm still able to, even from this conversation, add another little piece to that puzzle, maybe see another little area of my life or my business where I can maybe implement a bit more of this. And I think that's the point. Like, with all this personal development, business growth stuff, for me, I think the point is not constant consumption of information. Absolutely not. But revisiting these ideas, having this reflective practice where you can go, I learned this thing, I tried it, and it had this outcome. Repeat. I learned this thing, tried it, had an outcome, and actually implementing the things and having a process for reflecting on them, I think is really important. Because there was a couple of points in this conversation, I was like, fuck, I didn't even think of that area in my life where this thing came up, and this was the first time I thought about it, or something I did the honesty piece somewhere I hadn't necessarily been honest. I was like, that's something for me to mull on and think about now. So, just ultimate gratitude for you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. And Joe, just for me then, because I think what I've got better at and try to work on is my own self-compassion. Because again, we're saying all this, I've made plenty of fucking mistakes, I'm going to make more, but I'm getting better at me going down wrong avenues or doing things that maybe aren't successful or whatever we talked about here, but then going like, that's okay. Because if you can genuinely lean more into the infinite game, then we can always learn and we can always be better. And that's a big thing for me, aging. Like, I'm 38. I'm an old bastard. But I understand myself more. I've lived a bit more of life. I do understand more what I want from life. So we have a second half to explore. Like, we are still exploring, a lifetime to explore.
Yeah, there's nowhere to be.
No, there's nowhere to be. Exactly. And again, as much as I'm chasing and I'm going and I want to succeed, if I can lean more into me day to day, that's the opportunity that we have in our 40s, 50s and 60s. And then in 10 years' time, we can sit there and go, fair play to us.
Unbelievable. Another episode in the bag.
Can we do them here all the time?
We'll ask James. We'll ask James. On that note, thank you very much for you being here. Thank you for the man behind the cameras here, Ian, behind the cameras there. Thank you to James. He's not in the room at the moment. We bore James to death because we talked about this stuff all the time. But really appreciative for this whole day. It's been good. And as you can see, slightly different set here. Thanks to the Grayson as well. And we will be back probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks with another episode saying the same things, learn the same lessons. But really appreciate it. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
My friends, thank you so much for listening to that episode. If you are enjoying these conversations, if you like the podcast, please do me a huge favor. It really makes a massive difference. Whatever platform you are currently listening on, whether it's Spotify or Apple or something else, please do subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And feel free to leave us a rating, a review to let us know your thoughts about the episodes, about the show in general, and to let us know if we're doing a good job and if you like what we're doing. Really, really appreciate it as always, and I will see you in the next episode.